I got detention for sleeping in class. I wasn't sleeping. I'm diabetic. My blood sugar crashed. I've had type 1 diabetes for 9 years. I know my body. I know the warning signs. That morning in Mrs. Sanders' class, I felt my blood sugar tanking, hands shaking, cold sweat, everything getting blurry. I raised my hand to ask if I could go to the nurse. She didn't even look at me, just said, "No one leaves until the lecture is over." I tried to tell her it was an emergency. She cut me off. I don't do special treatment. I reached for the glucose tabs in my backpack. She snapped at me for eating in class. 30 seconds later, I hit the floor. Everything went black. When I came to, there were kids standing around me looking scared. Mrs. Sanders was writing something on a yellow slip. She handed it to me while I was still on the ground. "Detention, tomorrow. Maybe next time you'll think twice before sleeping in my class." The nurse checked my sugar. 46, dangerously low. She looked at the detention slip in my hand, and her whole face changed. "Who gave you this?" I told her. She picked up the phone without another word. First call was to my mom. Second call was to the principal. I sat there for 20 minutes drinking juice and shaking. Then my mom showed up. She didn't hug me, didn't ask if I was okay. She just said, "Where is she?" The principal called an emergency meeting. Mrs. Sanders walked in 5 minutes late with a coffee in her hand, didn't even look at me. The principal asked her to explain what happened. She sighed like this was a waste of her time. The student was sleeping. I gave him detention. I don't know why this requires a meeting. My mom leaned forward. "He wasn't sleeping. He was having a medical emergency." Mrs. Sanders shrugged. "That's not what it looked like to me." "Did you read his 504 plan?" Mrs. Sanders blinked. "His what?" My mom's voice dropped. "The legally mandated document that tells you how to handle his diabetes. It's in your inbox." "I know because I emailed a copy myself." Mrs. Sanders shifted in her seat. "I get hundreds of emails. I can't read every single one." The principal cleared his throat. Mrs. Sanders cut him off. "Look, I'm not a nurse. I'm a teacher. It's not my job to monitor everyone's blood sugar. If he was really that sick, he should have said something." I watched my mom's hands curl into fists under the table. "He did say something," I said. Everyone looked at me. I raised my hand 3 times. "I told you it was an emergency. You told me you don't do special treatment." Mrs. Sanders laughed. "That's not what happened." The principal held up his hand. "Actually, I'd like to hear from some other students." He pulled out a folder. "I spoke with 4 of your classmates before this meeting." Mrs. Sanders' smile disappeared. The principal read from the first statement. He raised his hand and she ignored him. Then he stood up and she yelled at him to sit down. Then he passed out. He flipped to the next one. She told him she doesn't do special treatment. He tried to get something from his bag and she said no, eating in class. He closed the folder. "All 4 statements match. None of them match yours." Mrs. Sanders started to speak. The principal cut her off. "I also checked your email." He turned his screen toward her. "You opened the 504 plan email on September 3rd. You've had 5 months to read 3 paragraphs." My mom finally spoke. "My son could have died, and you gave him detention while he was still on the floor." The principal stood up. "Mrs. Sanders, I'm placing you on administrative leave pending a full investigation. This meeting is over." My mom walked me to the car in silence. When we got in, she just sat there for a second. Then she said, "I need you to know something." I waited. When the nurse called me, she said your blood sugar was 46. "Do you know what happens below 40? I shook my head. "Seizures, coma, sometimes worse." She gripped the steering wheel. "You were 6 points away from that because a teacher couldn't read an email." She looked at me. I wasn't calm in there because I wasn't angry. I was calm because if I started yelling, I wasn't going to stop. We drove home in silence. Mrs. Sanders resigned 2 weeks later. I heard she didn't want to wait for the investigation results. Her replacement introduced herself on the first day by asking if anyone had medical conditions she should know about. I raised my hand. She smiled and said, "Thank you for telling me. That's all it takes. That's literally all it takes."